Here we go, round two. We for the people out there listening, we tried to record last week, but you guys were having some pretty bad weather out in California, and it was affecting the internet and everything, huh?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was we had like a few power outages around here. I think California's just not prepared for this much rain. I mean, it was hailing here a week ago. So crazy.
It's kind of good though, I think, because they've been saying that it's been so dry out there for so many years. Now you guys, it went from one extreme to the other. Is that what happened?
I, I don't know. I mean, we've needed water for a while. It just got a little crazy this year. I know there was a bit of flooding and stuff like that. And since I've lived here, I haven't really experienced that. I've been here for about 4.5 years now. That was
Does
just
it?
a wild weather season.
Yeah, it doesn't really rain. I lived there for 14 years, and I think I was there for a year, and it rained once the first year I was there. So it's crazy. Um, congratulations on the new album, Auburn, which just came out in February. And
Thank you.
and before we talk about that, I wanted to talk to you about growing up in New York. I know that you grew up in Long Island. What was that like growing up out there?
I really loved growing up on Long Island. I have a really big family, so I had like 15 cousins on my block. So that was pretty awesome. I didn't feel the one thing I thought was lacking, especially where I lived on Long Island, was there weren't a lot of like people that didn't like everyone was sort of the same,
Really?
which was sort of boring. Like I kind of felt like an outsider a lot there, but it was a great place to grow up. I have an amazing family, and yeah, I'm lucky to have spent time there. I don't think I will live there again, but I like to go back and visit. I have a lot of great friends there.
I remember last time we talked, I told you said you were from Great Neck, and I said that I had an ex-girlfriend from Great Neck, and I think you said something like everyone does.
Yeah, I feel like everyone has an ex-girlfriend from Great Neck. I get that response a lot from people.
Now, you eventually moved into Manhattan, right?
Mhm.
To go to
I did.
school?
Yes. Well, I moved to Philadelphia for a year for school, and then I moved to Manhattan for school after that. And I was in Manhattan for years, all over, like the East Village a lot when I was younger. And then most recently, I was living in Harlem before I moved over here.
I used to live on 10th Street in between First and Second.
Oh, nice. I was on 12th and 2nd for a long time.
Oh, that neighborhood's
Yeah.
awesome. It's changed
Yeah.
a little. I was there in like the late 80s, so it's a little
A
different
little,
now.
but even now, like it keeps every time I go, it's significantly different. So,
So when did you actually start listening to music, and what were some of like your early influences as far as music go?
well, my parents are both big fans of music. My dad managed bands when he was much younger, and then he opened a nightclub in the city, and so I was allowed to go there on Thursdays and listen to the singer-songwriter night. That was really exciting for me. It was predominantly women, and they would just come in on Thursdays and show what they've been working on and perform songs. So that was really had a big influence on me. I thought that was just incredible. And then growing up, I listened to a lot of like my mom, I guess, was an Alanis Morissette fan, so I listened to Jagged Little Pill album a lot. I've always been really into like grunge and like Chris Cornell, Nirvana, like all of that stuff. My dad was into Jethro Tull, so "Bungle in the Jungle" is one of my favorite songs, just because it's so nostalgic to like a certain time in my life. And then as I got into high school and stuff, I got a little bit more into metal. I've always been all over the place. Like I studied musical theater. I love classical music, but I always use heavier music as a way to like release emotion. And I think that's why it's so fun to write within that genre.
When you started getting into metal, was it like traditional metal, or did you get into the more American thrash speed scene, or like Sabbath or Maiden, or Metallica or Slayer or Anthrax or
Um, so I think my first, like my parents are not, they don't listen to any metal. So the first stuff I was into was like when I was young and like the 2000s new metal stuff. And then from there, I started to listen to other kinds of bands like 80s metal, everything all over the place. I think it definitely started with new metal though. And then now as I progressed and wanted to explore more, I mean, Sabbath is one of the best. I love listening to Ozzy. It's just so theatrical. And I think that also probably drew me to metal also. That's very much like theater. It's this extreme version of everyone, you know, but then it still has this through line that, especially as like a teenager and young adult, you really connect to, because there's so much like drama and passion, and nothing is easy.
Yeah, so I guess I forgot that you're a lot younger because I was thinking of the old school metal and stuff. And you were when you say 90s metal, late 90s metal, the new metal, what bands like Korn, Tool, bands like that, or
Yeah, yeah. I was super into System of a Down.
oh yeah, good band.
And as like I got older, then I started to like get into, as I got older, I started to get into older metal also, just because it's really beautiful, and the musicality is, I think, exceptional.
Did you start playing in bands in New York, or did that not happen until you moved to California?
I did. So when I was like in my late teens, about to go to college, I started this like metal project with. I was being guided by my voice teacher at the time. Her name is Melissa Cross, and she's like teaches people how to scream and sing. And I grew up around her. She did those songwriter nights at my dad's club when I was a kid, so she just was like a constant in my life. And then I went to school for theater and kind of was like, oh no, this like being in a band is unrealistic. And then when I moved back to New York, I started a band called Elana J and the Grinders, which was like hard rock. And we played a lot around like the East Village and stuff like that.
Where did you go to school? NYU?
No, I went to a musical theater conservatory called AMDA. And then they had a Bachelor of Fine Arts program in Los Angeles. So I did half of my time in New York, half of my time in Los Angeles, and sort of in between, I kind of went a lot of different ways. I went to like Circle in the Square, which was another conservatory for a while, New School for a little bit, sort of flopping around, but finally
When
graduated.
when did you permanently get out to California? LA pretty much is where you're living, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, I came out to California. I guess it's about 4.5 years now, so permanently. I came out to do a couple work tour shows on this stage called the Share Girl stage, which is like a female run stage. And then while I was out here, I worked with Nick Rowe on, I wanted to rework one of the songs I had done with my band. And sort of as I was here, I realized I didn't really have much to go back to in New York, and I wanted change. I wanted something new. So I moved out here, stayed out after the shows, and kept bothering Nick until he would work on more songs with me.
I'm going to ask you more about Nick in a minute because I know that you wrote a lot of stuff with him. You guys wrote together. I had heard somewhere, and I'm not sure if I read this or saw it on a different podcast, that you used to do a lot of open mics at the Viper Room.
Yeah, so when I moved out here, I didn't really know a lot of people. So I mean, I had family out here, but I didn't really have any friends. So I started doing the open mics, the Sunset Jam at Viper Room. And that's actually how I met most of the musicians I know here. I'm the drummer in my band now. I met at Viper Room. It was a great place to meet people. It was a really good time, like to practice on stage. They sort of like give you a song. You all meet up like as you're doing the song for the audience for the first time. You don't really practice together. It was super fun. But yeah, I was really involved in that when I first moved here up until COVID. There's also the jam at the Whiskeys, so I would hang out around there as well. I got really accepted into the like West Hollywood music scene, which was awesome because I don't think the music scene is as obvious in New York. Like it was very easy entrance, you know?
Yeah, I found that too when I got to LA in '84, a long time ago. The Sunset Strip was insane then because hair metal and thrash were both and punk and hardcore. Everything was exploding at once around that time. And do you live in Hollywood?
I did for a while. I just moved out in Pasadena about 6 months ago. But yeah, I was in Venice, and then I was in Hollywood, and then recently out here.
I used to live on the Marina Peninsula. I love that neighborhood. I was out there in May. I love California. I miss it a lot.
I mean,
Did
great.
I'm sorry?
I said it's great, especially when the weather's cooperating.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unusual that you're having this kind of weather. That's why I asked you about it. Did the people that you ended up playing with, did you meet? You said you met a lot of musicians at the Viper Room. Are those the guys that you ended up playing with and recording with?
So recording, no. Recording is Nick Rowe on most of the instruments. Then I have Ray Luzier on drums for like 6 songs, and Marcos Curiel added to Broken. So no, I the whole project was a collaboration between Nick Rowe and myself. As far as what getting the band up and running, yes, it's friends of mine that I have met through the jams or just like being around the Sunset Strip.
So you have a touring band that wasn't recording with you. It's a different band, basically. Okay. So you named the album Auburn, and I read this about after your sister's beautiful auburn colored hair after she lost the battle with addiction. You said that her passing, and I quote, forced you to re-examine your life and make significant changes. Could you elaborate on that a little for our listeners, as much as you want or as little as you want?
Yeah, so my sister passed away and I was living in New York, and it affected me deeply as it would probably anyone. And it made me really re-examine that I wasn't living the life that I wanted. Like I was sort of just like surviving, and I wasn't really thriving. I wasn't really pushing myself. I wasn't experiencing things I wanted to experience. I was sort of like half alive mentally. So it made me make some really abrupt changes, which heavily influences what the album is about. It's like about evolving and all the ugly, kind of dark parts that aren't really talked about when you do that. When you make a significant change in your life and evolve, it can be beautiful. The end is great, but the process of change is a roller coaster of just like chaos and regret and guilt, but also excitement and like mania. Like it just was, it instigated a huge change in my life. And I think when someone you really care about passes away, it forces anyone to re-examine what they want and how they want to live, and how easily everything is just gone, you know?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Nick twice already, and I know you wrote together, and he also produced the album. What's the process that you guys used? Did you write lyrics and he wrote the music, or did you go to him with songs and then he added on to the songs?
It was all different. I mean, predominantly I was lyrics and he was music and lyric and melody for me. And but like we would, each song came about in a different way. Like sometimes I would come up with like a song that I wanted to do. I'd come in with all these lyrics and then we'd build on that. Or he would just, I'd come in and he would have had some cool riff he'd been working on, and it inspires like kind of through dummy lyrics. I would be like, oh my God, that's what this song is about. And it was really cool because every time was so different. Like one song was a joke. Like we were stuck probably, like I wanted like a song that was like deep and taking a while, and like we were just like beating the song to death. We took like a break just to chill, and I was like joking about something, and we came up with this melody. And I won't say what song it is because I don't, if it means like if it deeply touched somebody, I don't want to like say it was a joke, because it wasn't, but it did start as us just kidding around. And this whole song was written in like 2 hours. Like sometimes they're super, they flow out like it's like just easy peasy, and other times you have to like kill your angels, sort of like you're so deeply invested that you overanalyze everything, you know?
When did you realize that Nick was the guy to write with? I mean, was it him that said, I'll write with you, or did you go to him pursuing him to write with you?
I pursued him to write with me because so we were just going to work on one song, and it was such a fun experience. And I really didn't have any sort of foothold out here musically. So I had met him, I had worked with him. I thought, you know, his work was amazing. And he was just fun to hang out with. So I asked him to keep working on songs, and we came up with a plan, and we did essentially an EP before I even ever got signed.
So that's what helped you get the deal with AFM?
Yeah. Yeah, we recorded like a live performance at SIR Studios and sent it out to some labels, and that's how AFM heard about us.
Yeah, they're a good label.
Yeah,
They're in Germany, right?
yeah.
Um, I just want to go back for a second because you kind of alluded to this. I was going to ask you how you assemble the musicians that played on the record, but I believe you said Nick played most of the instruments and Ray Luzier came in on some of the tracks. So Nick played bass and guitar on all the tracks. Or did you play any instruments as well?
No, no. Nick is like, I think, sort of a musical genius. Like he plays everything, and he is so nonchalant about it. And he has great ideas. But yeah, no, he was the main instrumentalist, and then we just had Ray come in on 6 songs on drums, and Marcos added guitar to Broken, and then yeah, the only other contribution is Carla on vocals for Lift Me Up.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to you about that in a second because that's really something, that track. Um, so so when he was doing the tracking, did you do like how did you record it? Did you do a rough lot? How would you do it with just the two of you? Did he do all
Uh,
the music first and then you just sang over the music?
sometimes it would just be like some of the songs were really broken down into little sections. Sometimes he would come in with a music track and I would sing over it. It was funny because it was like the only time we used like a recording studio, or like I mean, he has a home studio, but like a recording studio was NRG for the drums, and that was really cool. But otherwise, it was like basically me yelling in his face in his garage studio, making this album. But yeah, it was sort of, and actually a few of the songs we wrote as we went. Like we'd come in with nothing, and it was really kind of like a learning curve because he's so fast. He would come up with parts so fast, and I'd have to come up with like a lyric and a line to go over it, and it was like at first kind of overwhelming. I'd be like, I think I have to go home and work on this for a few hours, and he's like, just do it now.
Did a lot of the lyrical content that you have come from your experience about what you went through with your sister?
Of course, yes.
So you
The
had
whole,
probably a notebook with lyrics
yeah,
in it, and yeah.
yeah, I always have a notebook with just stuff that I'll write down. So whenever I go into a session, even if it's like working with somebody else someone I haven't worked with before, I don't even know what we're gonna do. I always have just a book of random, like just things I put together, things I think sound good, or thoughts that I have, and they're usually organized in a way that's like a little chunk of a song or a little like a piece of a verse or a, so I have something to at least use as like a dummy lyric. And then sometimes even as you're just like playing with the song, like words start to form, and it takes on a different meaning.
Yeah, your songs are pretty deep for sure. Now you have this one great, you have several great songs, but this song "Lift Me Up" that you were talking about, which features Carla Harvey from Butcher Babies, a band that's been around for a while. How did that all come together? Let's talk about that first, and then I want to talk about the video that has 500,000 views, which must be blowing your mind. How
Yeah.
did you know Carla?
No, I did not know Carla. My manager knew Carla, and he was at a dinner with her, and he and I had been talking about how it'd be cool to have a feature on this song, especially like a female feature. And we were kind of tossing around ideas, or we were even thinking like maybe it would be another musician. But then he was at dinner with her and a bunch of people, and he played the song, and she was down to hop on it. And it was still pretty strict COVID rules then, so she actually recorded. I sent her the song, and she recorded her verse in Chicago, and then we talked on
Oh,
the phone, talked about like ideas and stuff, and then we met in person for the first time, shooting the video, and it was kind of, with limited
really?
budget and stuff, you shoot video. Like our video we probably shot in 5.5 hours, so it was like a crash course,
What?
like, hey, in person, let's do this.
I would have never thought that was a quickie video. That's a really good video. Um, well, I got a couple of different questions here. So she wasn't in LA, she was living in Chicago.
In Chicago, and it was crazy. Like first, like Nick got COVID, and then I got COVID, and then she got COVID. So everything kept being like, it was took a while to get everything organized. But yeah, she recorded. I think her engineer got COVID too. Like it was just a comedy of errors, but
I got
it worked out
COVID
really well.
too. We all got COVID.
Yeah, but it was all within 3 weeks. We all got it. Like while everyone was supposed to get like this song done, so we're like shit. Um, but it worked out really. It worked out, and yeah, she recorded it there, sent it to us, and we put it on the track, and it was great.
Wow. And about the video, I really love the video, and you must be blown away by the fact when I just wanted to check today to see where
Mhm.
the numbers are at. And it seems like in the last even the last week, the views have like gone up tremendously. I mean, 500,000.
To be honest, Lift Me Up, when we released it as a single, it didn't get as much attention as the other songs that I've released. But now that the album's come out, people have gone back, and now that song I think is getting the attention that it sort of deserves. I think it's a great song, and she really killed it. Like she really added something special to it. So I'm glad that people are checking it out more now.
And the video's really killer. I mean, was there a director? I mean, who directed the video?
Yeah, Dale Ray Drestini. He also did my Broken video.
Yeah.
And he's really great about like working with a budget and getting things done fast and kind of like reusing things that he's doing for other like space and stuff. So we really like slither in there. But he's a great guy. We wanted something a little lighter because the songs are so heavy on this album. The majority of them, it was kind of like, so the video is like a little like a fun, like we're not,
Yeah.
it's like almost comic book like fighting, and it was fun to do.
Oh yeah, you look like you're having a great time. Did the label have anything to do with the video, or is this something that you guys did in LA
We
on
did it
your
in
own?
LA. We did it in LA. The label funded it, but uh Rage, the director, and I and my manager talked about ideas. We wanted to do something lighter, like not so like I was in a straight jacket in the previous video, so we thought something maybe a little more fun and like empowering. So we talked about it a lot, and yeah, it came together really quickly. We shot it. She flew out just for 2 days. It was great.
That's fantastic. Okay, my favorite song on the record is Broken. You mentioned it earlier. I also love Fight Alone. Those are my two favorite songs. I like the whole record, but I really love those. Um, I've read in a few places that you often get compared to singers like Lizzie Hale and Taylor Momsen. Do you think those are accurate comparisons, or do you feel like, oh, I don't know, writers are just saying that? I mean, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I think that's very flattering, and I of course appreciate it. I mean, Lizzie Hill, I think, is one of the best female singers
Yeah,
ever. Um, but I also think there's not that many females. So like if you sing heavy music, they just list whoever, like five people. I mean, there are a lot of great female bands right now, but like super popular, there's not that many. So I think we get really grouped in together, even though we're all pretty different. But again, it's super flattering, and I will never not take that.
yeah, I can understand how some people would think that you even come from like a Chris Cornell kind of like vibe, because I mean, the music's not exactly the same, but or you might be close to the Hailstrom than Soundgarden, but you might be somewhere in the middle because there is a commercial thing going on too, but it's heavy as well. Do you feel that way as
Yeah, for
well?
sure, for sure. And yeah, definitely. I mean, Chris Cornell is one of my favorite musicians and singers. I love, I love him. I think he's great and just so inspirational. So if you hear any of that, that's great. But yeah, like I love that kind of music. I think it's super flattering and amazing to be compared to these like kick-ass women. But I think we also have to see that we are all very different. And
Yeah.
it's very easy for people to get together just because they're female.
Do you see yourself going on the road with artists like that?
Yeah, that would be amazing. I would love to open for Hailstorm. Like that would be a dream. And of course, that's the vibe we fit into. I think we're a bit heavier. Um, but yeah, of course, I mean, I Hailstorm live often. I think they're just incredible band.
I want to go back to the label for a second. How did they I mean, I know you said you have a manager. Did your manager send it out to all the labels around the world that would fit, like, from Roadrunner to like Warner
Uh-huh.
Brothers, everyone, and AFM was the one that stepped up? I know they have Thunder Mother, so they do know how to, they have other metal bands too, so they understand how to market it.
Yeah, so he sent it around to a few different labels, not a ton, just a few. And I talked to a couple labels. Some of them didn't really follow follow through. Some of them wanted too much control, which freaked me out. AFM really, like, they allow you to stay creatively in control, and I think that that's really important. They're also able to focus on like building up a band. You know, they don't
Marketing.
just bands. Yeah, so I thought they were a really good choice, and they've been great.
Yeah, they got Fly working you guys, Fly PR. So does Fly do, I mean, you might not know the answer to this, so I'm just curious. So do they do all their art, all the whole label, or did they just hand pick a few artists?
No, I think Fly does three of their artists, um, two American, and I think Fly's doing like Thunder Mother's American stuff
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
So I think,
And
yeah, it's three, and then they have a like a German PR company as well.
do you get to deal directly with the American publicist?
Yes.
Yeah, they're good. They're real good. They've been following. They've helped me, help us, my booking agent, myself, scheduling. So I mean, we talked about touring a little bit. Do you have plans right now to go on tour?
So we're in talks right now. We're hoping that fall will be a time for us to really get out there and do a bunch of shows. We recently did a show in Hollywood, and then we were supposed to have a show in March, but it fell through. So we are now looking to book our next one. But the focus of 2023 fall is shows and touring. So we're just waiting to hear back from some bookers.
Is the plan like to do a club kind of tour, or do you hoping to just get on an opening slot for a bigger tour?
I mean, it would be amazing to get an opening slot for a bigger tour, just for exposure. But we're like just excited to get these songs out for, I think the most exciting part of doing this kind of music is performing it live and connecting to people. So any way that could happen, and the quickest way that can happen, is sort of what I'm gearing towards.
I don't know if you said this or not, but are they focusing more in the US or Europe as far as the touring goes?
I think initially the US.
I'm sure they want to get you out there because Germany's a really big metal market. Well, a
Yeah,
lot of countries in,
I would love to go to Europe.
yeah, you'll get there.
Yeah.
Um, so there's really no showcases or any one-offs or anything happening, or are you just waiting for the touring?
So we had a one-off like 3 weeks ago in Hollywood, and I will probably do one. We were supposed to do it in March, that fell through. I'm getting married in April, so that month I'm kind of busy. And then
Congratulations.
and then so hopefully May, June we'll do some more local shows, and then hopefully get out and start doing more touring.
I didn't plan on asking you this kind of a personal question, but did you meet your husband in New York or LA or somewhere else?
I met him. He's a musician in LA.
Musicians. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. I've gone out with a lot of musicians myself. When you're in the music industry, it's bound to
Yeah.
happen because we're all so connected with each other. Um, I also just a couple more things. I was just curious about your own musical taste these days. Like, what are you listening to right now? I mean, are you in the metal vein, or are you listening to a lot of different types of music?
I listen to a lot of different stuff. I listen to bands that I've liked for years, like uh the usual, like older bands that I've mentioned before. Like I love Joan Jett. I always listen to Joan Jett. I love Soundgarden. I love a lot of stuff from then. But I'm also really into like lately like Brazilian music. I'm listening to Mutantes,
Whoa, really?
like Brazilian rock, and I'm like, it is like psychedelic and awesome. I'm really into that lately. Um, yeah, like that's sort of what's been playing like when I'm driving or in my like in on my record player. Recently some friends got me some cool records, and I've been trying. I don't really know anything about that kind of music, so I've been sort of listening to that. So it'll be interesting when I write my next record, because I've been listening to sort of stuff that I've never listened to before, if that like comes through at all.
That's interesting too, because a band like your band would do great in South America, not just Brazil, but Argentina and all those countries, because every American band that goes down there like does really well. They love music down there for sure. That's cool. So when you say you might go in a different direction, do you think it'll still be a metal type of thing, or do you think you might
Oh yeah,
sway?
yeah, definitely. I just like, whenever you listen to stuff that you haven't listened to, I think it changes your perspective a little bit. Um, so it might sound exactly the same, or it might just have like a little bit more of a psychedelic vibe. I don't know, but that's what I've been listening to lately. Just being like, I've been really into also like getting into meditation and inward focus and things like this. So I love metal and I listen to it every day, but I've been sort of listening to stuff to sort of expand my mind a little bit or just change the way I think a little bit. And I think exploring other genres is really, really cool.
Do you think you'll be working with Nick some more in the future?
Yeah, I think so. I really love working with him. I think it's not the easiest thing to find someone that you collaborate really well with and work really easily off of. So I think that I hope we work on the next album together. And then depending on how it goes with my like touring band, maybe they'll want to have a little bit more of an input. I'm open to that. So yeah.
Are you guys practicing a lot with a new
Uh-huh.
band?
Yeah. Yeah, we're in rehearsals. We had to take a little break to find a new bass player, but we're it's all coming together really well. It's really everyone gets along really well. It's a blast.
Cool. Hey, thanks a lot for taking the time to talk with us. And I love your record. And when they approached me about talking to you, I was very excited. Your publicist, that is. So I appreciate you coming on. And good luck with this record. It's a really good record. I could tell by the response you're getting on YouTube and stuff that you're going to do well. So,
Thanks so much. I appreciate your time.
and good luck out there. I hope the weather stays good for you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.